it is now time to go ahead and make a short review of rookie Keyonte George and his evolution recently over this winning streak alongside the other starters and role players of the Utah Jazz roster. At the point in time that I'm making this video, the Jazz are 22-20. Unfortunately, the game against the Warriors had actually been postponed. However, it was a game that they were slated to win. With that being said, Keyonte George has definitely upped his game and efficiency more specifically in order to aid this team beneficially off of the bench in some quality minutes. With that being said, this entire season, he's actually played in 36 matches. Now, he did have an ankle injury that actually sidelined him for a few games, but he ended up coming back, and he's honestly playing the best ball of his season thus far. With that being said, it wouldn't be right unless I went ahead and showed the differentiation between the numbers. If you're a fan of the Utah Jazz and you like NBA content, go ahead and subscribe to the page, turn on your post notifications, and like the video so that more Utah Jazz fans see the content we have going on here. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this. Keyonte George has played in 36 games so far this season for the Utah Jazz and started in 16 of them. Now, he was rushed out into the fray after a certain point when they got 8 games into the season, and THT as a starter just wasn't really working. They felt like it might have been interesting to go ahead and try Keyonte George as a starting point guard and experiment a little bit. Unfortunately, things didn't really pan out the way that they were supposed to. Defensively, he struggled a lot, and offensively, his efficiency just wasn't quite there. With that being said, he ended up eventually going down with injury and was replaced with Chris Dunn, who honestly showed the best case and reasoning for a point guard to be on this roster the entire season. With that being said, on a veteran minimum deal and being paid less than $2 million, he has an extremely high assist-to-turnover ratio, and he's honestly just done the best job showing Keyonte George the parts that he's missing to his game, which at the moment are the extreme playmaking ability to set the table for all of the other offensive weapons that really don't set things up for themselves, and then also being a hard-nosed point-of-attack defender on the defensive side of the ball, as well as a strong communicator. With that being said, in the 36 games that Keyonte George has played, he's averaging 25 minutes per match. He's also averaging 11.3 points in that time period to go along with 2.9 rebounds, 4.5 assists, 0.5 steals, 0.1 blocks, and 2.1 turnovers. That said, his current assist-to-turnover ratio is 2.2 to 1. Which is a little bit better than it was in previous times, because at the very beginning when he first got a start, he was flashing that playmaking sense very well. But as time went on, he started to make a little bit of the naive rookie mistakes that you would expect him to, because he's just not completely polished as a player yet, which is perfectly fine, but there's no reason to force him out there into the lineup to play against elite players when he's not capable of holding his own, because at that point, you're damaging him more than you're actually helping him by putting him on the court. In this niche role where he's playing more of the 20 to 27-ish minute range on a nightly basis since he's come back from injury, he's finding a lot more success. He's getting his feet wet still and getting quality minutes over quantity minutes. He was starting games alongside Jordan Clarkson, and the Utah Jazz were getting blown out of the water by teams. Now he's coming off of the bench behind Chris Dunn, who sides with Colin Sexton, and now he's getting more of an opportunity to watch how they need the point guard position to be played from him, and also becoming more confident in his own shot, finding the right shots, and actually sinking a consistent number more of them. And while his efficiency hasn't been the greatest, it's still significantly better than it was in the past. Now, to really get an understanding of what the difference is between Keyonte George right now as a point guard and previously what he was doing as a starter, it's only important to go ahead and look at what he did in his starts compared to this most recent stint of games where I feel like he's played his best basketball. With that being said, the rookie has 16 starts to his name so far, and he's played an average of 28.2 minutes in those games. He ended up averaging 12.7 points, 3.4 rebounds, 5.9 assists, 0.6 steals, 0.1 blocks, and a whopping 2.6 turnovers, which at that point was the second most on the team behind the one and only Jordan Clarkson. From a field goal shooting perspective, he was actually shooting some quite abysmal numbers, shooting 34.3% from the field on 11.3 attempts and 31.5% from 3 on 5.8 attempts, to go along with 79.4% from the free throw line on a lowly 3.4 attempts on a nightly basis. With that being said, overall, those numbers don't really jump off the page to you. They're pretty solid considering the fact that he did average double digits when he was a starter, and he also averaged almost 6 assists on a nightly basis. However, the issue remained that he was quite turnover prone after a certain point, and his efficiency was really abysmal. That said, he wasn't taking bad shots, and it was just more so about him finding his proper shots and more so making those shots. It's a lot easier to deal with a player and mold them if they find the right spots and they have the IQ to take the correct shots and they're just not sinking. And that was the issue that Keyonte George had. It wasn't so much a thing of him just shooting everything and trying to get the ball off just so he can score points. No, he was picking his spots wisely and the ball just wasn't quite sinking for him. Recently though, things have slowly started to turn that corner for him and we can be excited for the future. During his most recent 12 games in his return from injury, he's averaging 23.4 minutes per game. With that being said, he's scoring 12 points per game, bringing in 2.8 rebounds per match, 3.4 assists, no blocks yet, 0.4 steals, and 1.6 turnovers, which is significantly improved on the over 2.5 that he was averaging previously in his starts. He's also shooting a much improved 40.5% from the field on 9.3 shot attempts, shooting 33.8% from the three-point line on 5.9 attempts, and shooting 85.7% from the free throw line on 2.9 attempts. While these numbers don't necessarily jump off the page, they're still significantly better than what he was doing previously. His assist numbers have overall gone down, but that's more so because of his role and the expectation for what he needs to do coming off of the bench. In a situation that he has right now, Walker Kessler is the primary five that he's alongside. In the backcourt, he shares it with Jordan Clarkson more often than not. And the playmaker for that second unit has been Kelly Olynyk, who has been a really big, cohesive glue guy that's been very much of a mentor for a lot of the guys on the team. He's really great in the locker room, but most importantly, he's able to do so many things on the court that he can gel a lot of players that otherwise wouldn't have a great fit when they're on the court together. That being said, Keyonte George is taking smarter shots. He's shooting slightly more threes than he was before, and he's sinking significantly more of both shots on drives to the rim and three-pointers off the catch and off the dribble. The last thing to look at over this most recent 12-game streak is to see just how good his numbers have actually been individually. Now, overall, in 7 of those games, he scored double-figure points, and in only 2 of those games has he shot underneath 40% from the field. With that being said, he has the highest scoring nights of a career-high 21 points against the Miami Heat, where he went 6 of 10 from the field and 5 of 8 from 3, which was his best mark of the season, which was almost matched by his play against the Milwaukee Bucks, in which he had 19 points, shooting 7 of 13 from the field and 4 of 9 from the three-point line. With that being said, he's totaled 19 points on 3 separate occasions, had 14 points once, had 12 points once, had 10 points in his return game against the San Antonio Spurs, and most notably so, had 21 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists to go along with only 2 turnovers against that Miami Heat squad in a quality victory. All in all, the biggest things to take away from Keyonte's most recent play is the simple fact that he's a lot more confident in himself. He's hitting more shots, and because he's hitting more shots, he's learning which shots are for him and which shots he needs to go ahead and leave alone temporarily. Now, in the long run, he will be benefited as he gains a little bit more size and learns just to be a little bit more patient on some of his plays and goes through his progressions with a little bit more depth and thought processing to them. With that being said, I believe there's no better point guard to start ahead of him and show him the ropes than Chris Dunn, because Chris Dunn does everything the team really needs. He doesn't end up taking a high number of shots on a nightly basis, and very rarely will you see him take even 5. With that being said though, he's an extremely efficient passer that has very low turnover value and spearheads that defense like no other. Not only is he somebody that can go toe-to-toe with the likes of Damian Lillard, Stephen Curry, De'Aaron Fox, and Jamal Murray, but he's also known for being a great communicator. And because the Jazz love to run zone looks, it's important to have great communicators on the floor. And for Chris Dunn, he's that kind of guy that's never going to overhelp. He's never going to overstay his welcome in any part of the play. And when he does see guys out of position, he's going to go ahead and tell them to get their tails back where they need to be and alert people of when they need to help, when they're overhelping, and when they just need to stay home and let the play develop. With that being said, if Keyonte George can develop those same traits and take what he's seeing from Chris Dunn at this very moment and add those pillars of the game to himself, he'll be not only a much improved player, but quite honestly the franchise point guard that this team is looking for. Because remember, Chris Dunn is a tenacious defender and an elite passer and table setter for this team. Combine that with the confidence that Keyonte George has to pull shots, as well as his shot selection and his ability to quite possibly be one of the better three-point shooters in the league and just shot makers in general, and you have the recipe for quite possibly a demigod at the point guard position that is so coveted. With that being said, there's a lot of development coming for him in the rest of the season's games, and even beyond that over the next 2 to 3 seasons before we really get to see who Keyonte George is as a player. But over this most recent sample size of games, I like what I'm seeing. What about you guys? Let me know in the comment sections below if you think that Keyonte George is in a good spot with his minutes, or if you think there should be a little bit of an adjustment made. With that being said, thanks for tuning in this video. It's your boy Wraith Hoops. Make sure to like the video, subscribe, and turn on post notifications, and become a member of the channel to help support the channel and get the videos faster than anybody else. Shout out to Sachin for editing this video, and as always, good morning, good evening, good night, no matter where you are on the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.